city or a town, a frown. The business of a crown, of the living that abounds, of the church and the announcements. It's doing what counts, the underground sound in a city or a town, a frown. The business of a crown, of the living that abounds, of the church and the announcements. It's doing what counts. The underground sound is the voice within, to give ear to the spirit and to flee from sin, to live for Jesus and the praise of Him, by not selling out for the praise of men, to do whatever it takes, no matter what the cost, to keep pushing up the weight, carrying the cross, straight bench pressing sin, defend the word that lacks, and your best mention Him, or then you gon' die. Cause the underground sound in a city or a town, the business of a crown, of the living that abounds, of the church and the announcements. It's doing what counts, the underground sound in a city or a town, the frown.
Table Rock Mountain.
Okay. I'm not too familiar with that area.
Yeah. So this is Alex. He knows who you are, Pete, but I'm coaching him right now, just getting him ready to be coached by you someday, bro. That's the plan. Like I'm starting him out. He just been, how long you been powerlifting for?
Well, yeah, I mean, pretty much a year, I think.
Yeah, he's just been doing it like a year. He's pretty new, but he likes it a lot, and he's not, you know, I mean, he's got some ways to go, but yeah, I'd like to send him to you at some point, you know, when he wants to get real serious. But he's going to do his first competition. When is it?
It's
March?
May 28th.
May 28th. Okay, what federation?
It's IPF.
Okay. Is it like USAPL?
Or, wait a minute. Oh, what is it? It's I can't remember which one it was. There's like a whole bunch of them that are really similar. This US.
Where's it at?
USP?
Where's it at?
It's up in Bend, North Bend. So
It's probably, well, I don't know.
It's
Is it just like a,
PL. Hold up. What is it? What date? May?
it's May 28th. It's called the Trident. I think the Trident Showdown.
Let's see.
the Trident Showdown? That's in Bend. You were going to compete in Bend, weren't you, Pete? Or you're thinking about it?
Trident. I want to compete there because I want to go there. Like any place I do a meet now is going to be a place I want to go, you know? So
Yeah.
I'm not going to like I've been to the Bay Area of California a million times competing, and like that doesn't interest me anymore. And even like the Showdown, you know, I'm not that good anymore, but Miami, I'm not interested. Vegas doesn't interest me. Like if I want to do a meet, I want to do one in like Colorado, Montana, Oregon. Like I want to see the West more. I've been to those states, but still, I'm looking it up real quick. But yeah, it's like I just want to go to cool places.
USPA. Sorry, I got a
Oh,
little
it's USPA?
starstruck and I couldn't
Oh.
think.
Yeah,
It is USPA.
that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Okay. See,
I
that's
thought I was sitting on the side just listening to you. I didn't know I was actually gonna get.
I was going to put you in the camera. I turned it toward you.
we get everyone involved. It's all good.
Yeah.
No, that'll be good though. You have plenty of time. So May, plenty of time. Yeah. You got about what, 17-ish weeks, 18, something like that. So yeah, that's a good meet prep. I've got one around the same time, so that'll be good. USPA as well, but not that one.
Huh?
Not the same meet, but yeah.
You did a WRPF meet, right? In Dan's gym before? Did you?
No, I've never done one at Dan's gym. I don't
No,
even-
I Dan Green.
Oh, Dan Green.
Boss
See, I get
Barbell.
confused. I'm like, there's so many Dans. Dan Paschalk up in Madison.
No,
That's-
yeah, Dan Green. Boss Barbell. Didn't you do a WRPF once there?
Yeah, because they switched from USPA to WRPF for the next year. Boss of Bosses.
Did you like that? Do you like WRPF? Like, what do you think of that one?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, that's the Federation Caesar does. It's good.
Oh, it
But-
is?
Yeah, it's I think it's pretty comparable to like RPS. It's not like, I think they use a mono and everything, mono lift, but Boss of Bosses, they're not doing it anymore because California was so strict about the lockdowns. Like it pretty much wiped that meat out.
Oh, that sucks, man.
Yeah, they haven't done that meat in 2 years.
That's what they're gonna do eventually, though. In the gym that I train at, that the one Caesar goes to, they're gonna do WRPF meets there, and you should do it, dude. I mean, I've obviously talked to them. They're just kind of burned out because they like opened a gym, and you know how that goes. It's like an insane amount of work. Because I keep asking them like, when are you gonna do it? And they're like, that's not like the priority on our mind right now, you know. But they will do it though in time for sure. Like they'll do all that. They'll do the seminars. They'll do the meets. It's just they're burnt out right now, you know.
Well, that gym is sick, but yeah, I can only imagine because gyms just are not profitable. It's tough. It's just that's the reality. Like you open your own small business with overhead and stuff, it's like no, it's not profitable. You do it if you do it for the sake of the people, like enjoying being around the people and enjoying that atmosphere, but it's freaking stressful because it's not really like paying your bills.
See, the way they did it is the owner, he owns a concrete company. So he opened this gym and he said he's all, I never even had to make money. That's what he said. He's all, I just opened it and like when COVID happened and everything got shut down, he was like, it didn't even matter because my gym did not have to make money because he made all his money from another business. And then the gym was just his passion.
Well, that's everyone I know. That's how it is. Who has a gym? Because like I make the money off coaching. I've coached for 9 years, 9 years now. But like, it's not. There would be no other way to have the gym. Like the gym isn't making profit. Just if you break even, that's good. Like that's about all you can expect, unless you have one of these situations where you just like buy the building up front and you have no mortgage, you have no rent. Then you can profit. But if you're paying rent or mortgage, there's no chance. Like it's pretty much impossible. So his gym's the same boat. It's not profiting, but he's doing it for the love of the people, and that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's weird, huh? Because it's like seems like such a cool thing, but it's like it could probably take your passion from you. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's nice in a lot of ways, and it's a cool thing to have and create that community. But I wouldn't like recommend it to people. You know, I wouldn't be like, hey, that's a good path to go down. But it's just like that with any small business with overhead, really, and like a physical location. That's kind of how the situation is. So
Kelly loves it though. Like she loves it, right?
well, it's her passion. That's why we do it. Like it's her passion. Like the people and everything. That's what she likes doing. So if it wasn't her passion, we probably wouldn't be doing it. But that's her thing. So I support her in that, you know.
Does she ever get discouraged or anything, or like not want to do it, or does she like always feel like I love this, I'm glad I'm doing this?
I mean, no, she's never discouraged. It's just gonna get interesting. Like once our daughter comes in like 11 weeks, like that's gonna be a game changer because you know something funny. Like I had the flu for a whole week, and then she had the flu, and during that week she had the flu. I had to like do her stuff at the gym. So instead of her like getting up and going to the gym and early in the morning, I'm like waking up 4 a.m. every day, going to the gym, writing her class on the board and like training her clients. I was exhausted. Like I was dead, dude. I was like, oh, I gotta get to bed at 8 because I gotta be up at 4. And I'm like, I might have to do this again when my daughter comes. Like I might be freaking waking up at 4 every day, which is I'm just like it's gonna and that'll be the end of meat prep.
Maybe that's why all these powerlifters disappear, bro. They had kids. You know, like you said, they always disappear, bro.
I think it's because they have kids, they have a family, they have other jobs, they have like real jobs. And then I think it's because it's so hard on the body. Like I got the last few years before I came off everything, I was like, I can't progress because my body feels so crappy. Like it's impossible. Like my body, the gear doesn't work as good after a while because you're so used to it. And then like your body feels like trashed. So it's like impossible to make progress. Then you get discouraged and then you just burn out. Like that's how I was. So
and most people are done, huh? They don't do what you're doing. They're just done.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I don't know. I'm kind of trying to pioneer a new way, but my body still is like there's a lot of damage. So
it's good because I saw this comment, and it was Greg Doucette, and Greg Doucette said, you know, he wanted to ask a question or whatever, like, what is it like to go from being like trying to be as strong as you can to just doing everything you got to do to be as strong as you can, living that lifestyle, putting your health on the back burner, trying to break PRs and set world records and, you know, do all that stuff to switching towards being healthy, you know what I mean, and living, you know, a different lifestyle, which is totally what you're doing. And you competed against Greg before, right? Or in the same meet or something?
yeah, it was like 20. Where was this question, by the way?
It was just on a comment on a video.
Like,
It was just on
one
YouTube.
of
It
the
was on
videos.
YouTube.
Was it one of the videos with Leo or something?
I can't remember. I just remember like thinking that was a good question for this podcast.
I didn't
And I
even
was
see.
like, we got to answer that.
Yeah, we competed in 2012 in Amherst, Nova Scotia. So
Oh,
yeah, the meet isn't even posted on Open Powerlifting. Like it's for some reason the results aren't up there, but it was a while ago. It was CPF, which was like the Canadian SPF. But yeah, I don't know. It's so the original question was, what was it like to be?
well, what's the psychology like of going from like basically what you've done, right? You went from, because you were what, number 4 in the world or something at 242 to now you've gone completely natural and you're always checking on your health, you know what I mean? Like you're doing all these blood tests and you're making sure you're healthy, and you've obviously taken a step back in terms of your powerlifting, the weights you're lifting, but you're still doing it, but for different reasons and stuff. So he was asking, like, psychologically, what is that like, or what is the mindset there, and you know, what do you have to deal with? Because obviously you have to deal with going from a freaking 900-pound deadlift to a 700-pound deadlift. Is, you know, I mean, 700 is still like stronger than everybody else, but still, like, you know, I remember when you were pushing for 1,000, so it's like, okay, we're not doing that right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is more fun right now, to be honest, because it was like I said, like the last few years, it was just that burnout mentally of like, oh, everything hurts and I can't even like make progress at this point. And now it's like a fresh start. Like even every number now feels like a PR. Like a 600-pound squat will feel like an all-time PR to me because it's not with the help of steroids. So it's like it feels just as validating and just as fun. And now it's more fun because I don't have like sponsor obligations. Because like Animal was a really good sponsor for 5 years, but like it's always like I got to post this content, and like the training, you try to make it interesting and heavy to appease people and grow your followers, your following. And now it's like, but that didn't make it fun. Like it made it miserable because you're just always trying to like train to like have good content to post up on Instagram. And now it's like fun again because I hardly ever freaking post on Instagram now. So it's actually like better now, more enjoyable.
That's amazing. But I mean, I guess then though, you like, to a certain degree, you have to like, could be your personality, just maybe like you don't have like a huge ego or something, because I think maybe that's what he might have been talking about. Because I think there's like a lot of people that even are dying, right? Because they won't back down from being the biggest freaking dude in the world or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the ego is a lot better when you're not on like trenbolone and testosterone, you know, through levels through the roof. Like, I mean, my test levels are terrible, but so that obviously contributes, I think. But I still feel completely fine, like with low test. It just, I think that like suppresses your ego to an extent because you're just, testosterone, no doubt, makes you more egotistic, makes you more, you know, aggressive, and then trenbolone, like a whole different ball game. So I think it's easier in that sense because the hormones aren't like through the roof. So
I saw your post on YouTube. It seemed like you were saying like it's more fulfilling now, or you feel more fulfilled when your identity kind of shifts from high numbers to like doing something that's satisfying.
yeah, because I feel like,
kind of what you're saying?
yeah, I feel like a normal person again. Like how, you know, like almost like any other lifter who's just trying to get stronger for the enjoyment of it. that's how I feel. It doesn't feel like there's all this pressure and eyes on me now. So like I can just train normally. I don't have to worry about like, oh, I have to have awesome content. It's just like enjoying the journey for once instead of trying to get to the end result.
Do you think that there's like a psychological element to it for you? Like, I know that like um you know, like I quit drinking, right? I haven't drank in like 2 years or something like that. And I know for me, there's a certain element of it where I'm like, you know, I'm not scared to drink. It's not like this thing where I'm like, drinking's the devil. But I know that for me, there's a certain thing where I'm like, I don't even want one drink. You know what I mean? Like, because I don't want to open the door to it. And so like I wonder for you, is there a certain element of that why you're not going on TRT like because it's been like long enough where you know what I mean? Like you're already past a year or you're 14 months in and you know, like do you think that if you went on TRT then you'd be tempted to like go, you know, start going up the dosages and stuff or you know what I mean? Like, is there a certain element of it where you're like psychologically, you're like, I want to stay on nothing to not open the door to stuff?
I think there's a few reasons. That's a really interesting question, but I think honestly, one of the reasons is I want to be more godly, like not like a god, but like more what God wants us to be as a good person or whatever. And I don't feel like I can set as good of an example when I'm like taking a bunch of steroids if I'm promoting that lifestyle. Whereas if I'm promoting a clean lifestyle of health and not taking the steroids, drugs, and you know, testosterone, we can make the argument that that's not bad or anything. That's not, but I feel like I can be a better example to others if I live this clean lifestyle. So that's one of the reasons. Um, Whereas if I'm like, and I feel like I'm a better person if I'm not on all the drugs. I'm not as clouded and I'm not as aggressive and such. I'm more patient. So I just want to, yeah, and I want to give an example to others that they can do this as well. You know, without, and I know the test levels are low, but honestly, it doesn't. I'm kind of wondering like how much do test levels matter as opposed to overall hormone function? Because I think I'm training just fine with low test levels, but that could be because the overall hormone function, all your hormones matter more than just the independent, you know, variable of test. And then I do whether people, I don't know how everyone would feel about this or not, and I haven't really heard any backlash, but like once you're 3 years drug free, and it's by word, it's by your own morals, your word or whatever, you sign off, you can compete USAPL. Okay, so I'm tempted to go that route. I really want them to, and if I could be a part of this, improve their drug testing protocols because I think they're kind of flimsy right now. But I'm tempted to go that route and see how I can do against the best natural guys. And then it's just like and even if you're on TRT, it's like you're competing against people who are on a gram of tren. It's like, what's the even playing field there? Because that's not even close. So it's kind of like all or nothing with me if you're going back on stuff. Because if you're taking TRT, you're still lumped into the same class as people taking 3 grams a week. So it's like that's a pretty big discrepancy as well. So that's kind of a lot of answers there, but that's all of it.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense because you're thinking of it just in terms of competitively. But I mean, at the same time, I know that we were talking because like you were saying that John Hack he does like a low dosages and stuff, and he's like crazy strong, you know, because maybe it's not necessary to take that much, you know, because I feel like I know that people say when you clean out like you did, you get even better results afterwards. So it's like I almost feel like you could probably hit that 950 or 500 or 1,000 pound deadlift or something. You know what I mean? Like if you did it properly all the way. But I mean, I'm not. You know, that's just.
Yeah, I think that. And I've thought about that. I'm like, I could do like a test primo anavar cycle and way lower doses and do really well. But I don't know. I'm trying to kind of change the route here now of my path in life as far as that goes too, because I also think this is another thing. Like, I'm like, if I even take a little bit, I'm going to add 20 pounds body weight. and my sleep apnea is going to be way worse, and I'm going to have to worry about all these other health issues again. Whereas now it's like the sleep apnea is pretty much nothing. I feel good. I just, the health parameters of it too, I'm like, you can do it in a healthy fashion, so to speak, but I don't want to be carrying around the extra weight. I want my weight low, you know, relatively. It's still like upper 220s, but that's different than 252, 255, you know.
Yeah. It's funny because I always feel like the devil's advocate in those, like whenever we were talking about this stuff, you're like, oh, I just want to live a godlier life and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but what about that 1,000-pound deadlift, bro? Like,
Yeah,
I can't help it, dude. And that's like an ego thing too, though. Like, because it's like, why do you have to do that anyways? Just to say you did, or just to be like better than everybody? You know, I mean, like, I'm not sure what the motivation would be to do that, anyways. Really, I mean, I don't know.
yeah, I think it is for like clout, so to speak, of like, oh, I'm so freaking strong. But and that was the motivation for a while. Um, Honestly, now like 800 naturally would be freaking amazing. So that's pretty much like the equivalent goal now, which I don't know if that'll be possible. I'm gonna try, but now that the back pain's kind of gone, we'll see. It's fun though. I'm having fun.
And you've cut your volume way down. You were saying, right?
Yeah, it's just three training days a week because I'm trying to make it somewhat sustainable for when my daughter's born, and I'm like exhausted. That's another part of it, but like I recover so much better now. It feels way better training like this.
Now, how about this the stuff with the drug testing? You know, because I know we've talked quite a bit about that. Like, you said that if they just implemented what was it you said, if they tested something like a month before a competition, you could tell if they just came off of gear or something, like, and it'd be easy, you said, right? Like, this would prove everything. And it
Yeah,
clear, and you weren't trying to accuse people, you were just saying like, hey, we could shed light on everything and make it like 100%, or not, maybe not 100%, but like really good.
yeah. I just started looking, and I'm like, I looked at the USAPL drug testing results for 2021, the whole year. I was like, two people out of like 1,700. Like, come on, that's trash. Like, that's not. To me, that just was like, this is gives no credibility to the drug testing platform, and that they pride themselves on like the drug tested federation. I'm like, you caught two people out of 1,700. Like, that's terrible. And nobody from Raw Nationals, and everybody. And I think the things people popped for, like some of it was like diuretics, like hydrochlorothiazide, which is in blood pressure medication. So it's like, I'm just like, this is complete trash. Like, they could spend every athlete who competes USAPL could like pay $50, test for testosterone levels, estradiol, luteinizing hormone, and follicle stimulating hormone. Four things. They test for that. You can see some huge discrepancies in those numbers. You'd know whether or not someone had been doping. It's so freaking obvious. So it's like if someone's luteinizing hormone, LH, and follicle stimulating hormone, FSH, if those are low, it's almost a freaking no-brainer outside of the 1 in a million occurrence where someone has a pituitary issue. It would completely shed light and show who has been cheating and who hasn't. But I think a lot of these natural lifters are too scared to do it. They're the guys who maybe aren't natural but are competing naturally. I think a lot of people are like I don't know any USAPL lifters who get blood work, and I'm like, it almost is baffling. I'm like, what are you? I don't know. Maybe they feel they don't need to, and that's just as simple as that. But it's like it would just pull the rug out from that whole federation. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, we've talked about this, like, it could be just what do you call it, a PR or whatever, you know, like the different kind of PR, like public relations or whatever, because the NFL, right? How many people do they bust? You know what I
none.
mean? Not, dude, but they maybe one or two, right? Like maybe one or two, or no? Is it none? Is it zero?
They don't try.
But you know what I mean? Like, we know what's going on with that, right? Like, I mean, it's
Yeah.
not real. It's just for the public, they want it to
They
look
want
like, hey,
they want to make the impression that, just like USAPL wants to make the impression that they're putting forth a good effort on this. but they're literally catching no one. And I'm like, I've been on both sides of the coin. I know better than anyone. I can look at someone and know. It's just, and that's another thing. Like USPA drug tested meats, these guys can be jacking themselves up on all the SARMs in the world and pass. And it's just like I was looking at the USPA drug tested records, and I'm just like, half these freaking dudes are on SARMs, Rad 140, which is basically as strong as Anadrol. And like, it's just hilarious to me. It's like, and this is the sad part. I really feel sad about this. There's drug tested and then there's drug free. It's not the same. And people get so mad that I care about this. And I'm like, I'm just trying to make it fair. Okay. Like you want to compete against people taking a bunch of SARMs who are whooping your butt and taking cycles and stuff and not popping at all. That's fine by me. I don't think it's fair, but
Yeah. Well, I think so. Rad 140, you said, is like Anadrol, and you could take it and drug tested. So that's what we're gonna order you right after. Okay.
That makes me feel a little bit better about the records I was looking at.
you can take it USPA and you're fine. USAPL it's banned, but USAPL, I really wonder. There's people slipping through the cracks because all they test for are metabolites. Every test is a urine test, testing for metabolites. So you can also water your system down by drinking a lot. It's just like, hey, let's test some hormones, and then a lot of people would be scared to death and would shift over to untested lifting because we'd have them. We'd catch so many freaking people, but they don't want to do it.
So being buddies with Chael, right? I've learned so many things about life, bro. Like so many things that and it's just like mind blowing. And one of like Chael's favorite things is pro wrestling. Like Chael loves pro wrestling, right? And when I was young, I never understood it. I was like, I don't understand this. Like I don't get it at all, But it's basically like it's like a hustle, like the whole thing is like a hustle to take people's money, And the way pro wrestling started was it actually was real. So it was real. But then they wanted to put more and more events so they could make more money. So they wanted more and more shows, more pro wrestling, more matches, more events. And it was too brutal for the athlete to do real matches all the time. So they started working the matches so they would know like, hey man, you're going to win and I'm going to lose. But it was still so tied to being real. Nobody knew. So for the longest time, pro wrestling was like real fighting, but only the wrestlers knew that it was fake, that the outcome was determined. And, probably in the back room, they knew who the guy was going to, if they really fought, they knew who would win, right? Like they knew. So it was real still in that sense. But, it took a long time. It took a long time for the light to be shed on pro wrestling. Like for the longest time, it was like the guys making the money, they wanted to protect the business. So that was a part of it. It's like, if you're a pro wrestler, one, it's super hard to become a pro wrestler. You have to go through this tryout. Like there's all these legendary stories. You got to do 1,000 squats and we're going to beat you up and this guy's going to break your leg. And you got to do all this to get into the business. And then once you're accepted in, it's like, hey, you got to keep your mouth shut. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost being like a gangster, like being in the mob. And so there was a lot of pride to protecting the business and not letting people know that it's fake. And for me, like that, like blew my mind, like learning all this stuff. I was like, whoa, this is, like that's crazy. And it made it really interesting to me. I was like, pro wrestling is really cool and interesting when you start to learn the history of it and stuff like that, and you learn about it. And Chael like knows more than like anyone in the world, bro, about these kind of things. Even when he talks about fighting, it's like, he'll break it down in a way that like nobody else even sees, like the business of mixed martial arts or something. And like just hearing you talk about it though, I'm looking at like powerlifting, and I think there's an element of that, like probably there's plenty of guys that know, man, but they're protecting the business. And so it takes though something like yourself that comes out and somebody who wants to shed light on it, and man, nobody's gonna like it though. Nobody's gonna like it in the sport, I don't think. You know what I mean? Because if you're the guy who's like saying I'm natural, man, and I'm the strongest dude in the world, and you're really not natural, and someone's coming along going, hey man, I know how to do better testing. They're not gonna like you, bro. You know what I mean? Like, and I did find it interesting because like I watch your videos, I watch all your videos, and I'm like, man, like he's like, this is some like truth right here. It's obvious. Anybody listening could be like, this is obvious truth. And crickets. I mean, there is dead silence from everybody. That's been the response to everything you've been doing, and I think that's kind of telling. Personally,
I mean, there's definitely like strong natural lifters. Like I've known this guy for a little while. Like that guy who was commentating on the hybrid meet, Angelo Fontino. He's freaking natty. Like he's legit. He's like a 210, 205, squats like 655, benches like 375, and deadlifts like 771. Like he's freaking legit. He's a legit natty. And you look at him and he doesn't have veins popping out of his freaking neck and like, arms, and like it doesn't look like a road map. He looks freaking natural. He looks good, but he looks natural. It's like that's a legit natural lifter. And there's a lot of there's guys like that. And I don't know. I just see some of these physiques and some of these numbers, and I'm just like scratching my head like, huh. And then you see him, everybody's talked about this. You see him start eclipsing the untested numbers, and you're just like, it's kind of weird. I don't know. It's just, I think people are very gullible when it comes to this stuff, where they're like, they want to believe. They want to believe like they want to believe in Santa Claus. And I'm like, I get it. You want to believe. Like, they do. They want to believe. They want something. They want to believe that these guys.
Well, Alex doesn't know about Santa Claus.
Yeah. What? It's not real.
I know I'm ruining everything for it, but they want these numbers to be real and not, which they're still real on steroids. But it's because I respect the hell out of like the John Hacks and stuff. It's, I don't know. I'm getting off on my tangent here, but.
No, I mean that we had this conversation. This has been going on a while. Like we've been talking about this stuff because I remember telling you, my cousin, who I'm really close to. I talk to him all the time, and I remember him telling me. He goes, "I know for a fact," and he was ready to fight me. He was like, "I know for a fact that the NFL they're all natural.
Oh,
no one is on anything." This is what he tells me, and I'm like. I didn't, and I was like, he wants to believe in Santa Claus, though. That's what it is. He wants to believe that.
Yeah, funny story. When I was in college, I was trend out of my mind, like jacked up. I was freaking aggressive, traps big, pin and trend all the time test. Probably, I was like 250. And I worked as a doorman at this freaking very popular bar. And all the University of Wisconsin football players would come there. And the quarterback, like the starting freaking quarterback at the time, he's like, man, we got to get you to try out for fullback. He's like, I'm serious. I'll freaking set it up. You tell me right now. He's like, as you just tell me if you want to do a tryout and we'll do it. I'll set it up with the coaches. I was like, I take a bunch of steroids and stuff, dude. He's like, oh, don't worry about that. You're good.
Yeah.
This is college football. He's like, man, don't worry about it. You're fine. I'm like, what I'm taking? I'm injecting myself all the freaking time. And they want to try me out for the football team. I was like, I mean, is that not telling? It's like, that's at the college level. So it's kind of funny that people are just like, yeah, everybody's clean. It's all, God-given ability. It's like, well, maybe it's not. And it's still hard. Like we know it's freaking, even on stuff, these numbers are extremely impressive, but I just don't like the lies. So that's basically.
Well, what's interesting about it too, like for me is, if you cannot simultaneously say these are the best of the best of the best athletes, right? So say the NFL is the best football players in the world, they're the best, and then also say that steroids make you bigger, stronger, faster, and better athlete than anybody. Someone on steroids is better, and then you're going to say that the NFL athletes are natural. Aaron, they can't be natural and be the best if that's true about steroids. You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
you'd be saying that there's better athletes out there that are on steroids that are just not in the NFL.
like, do you think I mean, you guys might. Aaron Donald, Myles Garrett, do we really think these guys are naturals? Like, just as two examples from the NFL? And, like, is it fair for, just like I mentioned, Angelo Fontino, I want to make sure it's Fontino. Angelo Fontino, is it fair for him to be competing against all these other guys who some of them may not be clean? Like, he's hitting amazing numbers. He could be the best guy. He could be the best guy. And he's just one example. He could be the best guy, but he's going against people who might not be. That's just an example. And, like, it's so difficult too, because it's like everybody gives Ashton Ruska all the flack because he's like freaking jacked out of his mind, totaling 2,100, and we all think like, well, if he's natural and he went on stuff, he'd be deadlifting 1,000 pounds, he'd be squatting 900 plus, and he'd be benching like 600. So it's always like, is he just in a really extreme genetic outlier? Is he just like that one in a million guys, which he could be? Or is he really just faking us all out? And that's everybody, you know, I'm not going to say one way or another because everybody, he's the scapegoat in the sport. He's the one who everyone always picks on. Same with Russ Ori. And I'm like, I don't know, but I'd love for some of these guys to give blood work so we could kind of see. Like, and my whole point too of like, if I'm Russ and I'm Ashton, I'm these guys, and I want to really like, you know, make my name clean, why wouldn't I get labs and I could just say like my test levels are freaking 600, they're normal. Like my LH and FSH are 6, like they're normal. I'm gonna be the first guy who's like, you're clean, he's legit. I'll freaking make a video. I'll be like, wow, they did it. They're clean. It's 100% official. Like, look at their labs. You can't fake this. And so it's like, it's another thing. I'm like, you could literally like completely clear your name because a piss test is not clearing anybody's name. And I do think it's unfair. Let me be clear. I do think it's unfair that Ashton and Russ take all the flack and they're the scapegoats for the fake natties. That's what everybody says. I feel bad about that. That's not right. You know, there's a lot of other talented lifters hitting crazy numbers too, Ray Williams and all them. So it's like these guys who are the strongest, they're getting called out. And it's like chances are some of, if not, you know, all of them could be natural. We don't know. But my point should be, if everyone in the freaking USAPL got blood work, this would be easy to freaking see. We could easily find out who's clean, who's not. And I don't know why more don't do it. And then you got guys like Angelo. I can take one look at the guy, and I know he's freaking clean. And it's like he's competing totaling ridiculous numbers. He's competing against people who aren't clean. That's not fair. So,
yeah, and what we could say for sure, is if they are on gear, the testing that they have wouldn't catch them. You know, like you could say that for sure, like, because we could just say how to do it, right? I mean, you could probably say, okay, all you got to do is this. Right?
Then here's the thing: people always think like these natural guys, they're not taking tren and stuff. Of course they're not. They pop for the metabolites. The tests they do are urine tests. The urine tests can be dumbed down by drinking a ton of water. Which honestly, if someone's like, "Oh, hey, the meet's over, you got to piss in a cup," I'm like, I'm gonna have to start drinking water to make myself pee. So you're drinking all this water, you're basically completely dumbing down the results, which is why piss tests suck. And the only thing they're testing for are metabolites. They're testing for metabolites, and they might be testing for tests to estrogen ratios and things like that, certain ratios, but they're not testing. They don't get into the hormone aspect of it. You can't fake your way through the hormone aspect. And like I'm working with Merrick now, Derek from More Plates, More Dates. We could probably devise a cheap panel that would just like pop everyone who's cheating. Like I could probably talk to him, and we could literally come up with something where we're like, here's a $50 or maybe not that cheap, $100 blood test. You got to go get your blood drawn, get through. When we'll freaking pop everyone who's cheating. I'm pretty sure we could do it. Would the USAPL be willing to go with that? And USAPL wouldn't even have to front it. Make the athlete pay. Like USAPL has all these fees. It's like if people really want to be the clean federation, make the athlete pay $100 more a year, go get the freaking blood test, and we'll find out. Like it's not like the USAPL doesn't even have to pay it. And I wish this content that I'm talking about would get out to more USAPL lifters. Maybe I need to like post it on Instagram and tag a bunch of people to blow this up. But like I wish this content would get in their hands. Like there's people who need this need to hear this. There's people who need to hear this. I wish every USAPL lifter would hear this message. Like, honestly, I wish all of them. Like, let's get this out there because it's like there are solutions here, folks.
Hopefully, maybe Greg Doucette does like a response to this because, you know, he knows you. You know what I mean? And you know, we answered a question that he had, and you know, tons of people follow Greg Doucette. You know, because he's a brilliant guy, and I think he could make a really interesting video to get this out there. And he seems like he's really open to me. I mean, he seems like he's an extremely honest guy with, you know, he said that he did all these steroids and stuff, and he says his cycles, and he's very informative. And I think that as far as drug testing goes, he would be, you know, I mean, I think he would be on board with what you're doing. You know what I mean? He'd be like, yeah, Pete's right. You know, Pete's right. What does Derek say about it? What does he think? I
talked to him like a couple days ago, but I just try not to bother him too much because he's so busy. But I could shoot the idea by him. The whole problem here, guys, this is the whole problem. Will the USAPL be willing to implement something like that? And I don't know if it's not that easy. Like there's going to be a lot of red tape to get through to get something in place like that. And I don't know how willing they'd be to listen. But it comes down to the USAPL coming back and saying, sure, we'd be interested. That's what it comes down to. I don't know. I don't know who the higher ups are in the USAPL.
What would be their, this is the thing, like what would be their incentive? Because, you know, like I look at, like, for example, we go back to the pro wrestling thing, right? Pro wrestling was World Wrestling Federation up until, I don't remember, the 90s or something. And then, you know, they had to change it to World Wrestling Entertainment because, I want to say it was because of Joe Biden, actually. It's funny enough. Like, I think he got like super, you know, came down on steroids at the time, and, you know, they were investigating the wrestling, and then, you know, like Vince McMahon had to come out and say, like, this is all entertainment. This isn't real. And, you know, and, you know what I'm saying? So like it's something heavy had to come down on that sport though, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
USAPL had this falling out with IPF. Like they completely separated from each other. USAPL could come down as the most legitimate federation by a mile if they did this. They could blow IPF out of the water. They'd be like, we got this system that IPF doesn't have. We're way more legit than you. So they could clearly separate themselves as the most legit tested federation out there. That's what the incentive would be. Like they'd be far and away.
What if another organization came out and they did this testing you're talking about? Would you like go to that organization? If there was one that said, we're going to do exactly what you're saying, Pete, we're going to freaking start this, what you're saying, we're going to do it. Would you be like, they're the most legit and go with them? Or
heck yeah, of course.
You would?
Of course. Only problem would be getting it kicked off the ground and getting people into it. Because like all these other federations have the competitor base already. They have the established names. So it would be tougher to establish a new federation like that. But yeah, dude, that'd be freaking awesome. Like I'd be all over that. I'd be like, okay, this is actually fair now. Because the other thing, here's the other thing. Oh, the points just keep on coming, guys. The points just keep on coming. It's like these genetic freak guys, the top USAPL lifters, wouldn't you guys and everyone else be completely fascinated to know what their test levels are? Like, this guy is the freaking greatest. Let's see what his test level is. Like, I'd pay money to see. I'm like, that's how curious I'd be. I'd be like, that'd be so interesting. Like, we could see, is his test level 700? Is it 900? Is it 1100? We start to wonder. We start going, it might be. But you know what I mean, though? It's like, is his test level 3000? Which he's obviously doing something. Or is it 1000? Even then, you're like, yeah. Is it 700? Is it 4? Like, I want to know. It'd be freaking amazing if Russ Ori was like, hey guys, my test levels are 600, and like my LH and FSH are 6. I'd be like, wow, he's pretty freaking normal. He's just like got freak structure and freak. Because that's the thing. We can all, Nsima. We can all say Nsima is a liar. But the one thing about Nsima is Nsima has a 690 test level, which is quite high for natural, but it's still completely normal. But his LH and FSH are completely normal. So in my mind, I go, okay, we clear him. He's good. Like I literally say he's pulled 750. I'm like, I think he's legit because his LH and FSH are completely in the normal range, and his test is 690. So it's like on my test that I go off of, where I came up with this test, he passes. So it's like, and you look at the guy and he's jacked out of his mind. It's like there's clearly some different things that go into strength. It's not just test levels. I have crappy test right now. It's terrible, 186, but I'm still hitting good numbers and training, and I'm doing just fine. So it's not all just about test levels, but it definitely plays a role. And that would be a huge way to identify anyone cheating. Because you know what would happen? Some guy would take the test, his LH and FSH would be like 0.2, and he'd be claiming natty, and that right there, we'd be like, nope, you're done. You're done. You're exposed. So it's like, it'd be beautiful.
Yeah, man. No, that, I mean, I imagine that probably the sport will go there where you're talking at some point. I just don't know if it'll happen anytime soon. It's just like I said, like, what's the incentive? Because the federations or whatever you're talking about, they're pretty content with what they are right now. Everybody's like, yeah, we're all happy, and everybody believes this stuff anyway. So, why change it?
Yeah, USAPL should at least require at those pro meets they do. They came up with a few pro meets, the pro series they call it. They should at least test all those freaking people. Like, if you want to compete in the pros division, I feel like you should have to submit blood testing. It'd be the only way to make it fair. So at least make your pro level guys do it. Like, I mean, come on, that's a freaking no-brainer in my opinion. Like, you could even have like amateur USAPL meets like you have now. All right, whatever, don't do it. Implement it at the freaking pro series level. You got what, 3-4 pro series meets a year of like 50 people? Make them all freaking test. And there are some holes because, like, honestly, I'd have to talk to Garrett. I'd have to talk to Derek, but like with girls, you'd have to do something different. I mean, you could check like test levels and stuff, but you'd have to have some different parameters. But this is just like the initial ideas here. So
yeah, no, it's complicated, man. It's definitely, but I think like even just doing this podcast, like this is the way to get the information out there and get these thoughts in people's heads, because you get the wheels turning and you're getting, you start saying these things, then people are going to start being on board with it. They're going to be like, this would be more legit if this was done, and they'll start questioning it and going like, I don't know how legit this is, I don't know how legit these records are. And that's unfortunate for people that if they are 100% natural, but I don't know, like it's really interesting when you look at like that movie Icarus, like when Icarus came out, it blew my mind when the guy was saying how Lance Armstrong was the most tested athlete in the history of sports, and he never failed a drug test ever. It's just eventually somebody told on him, like he never failed a drug test, never, not once.
yeah, I think Landis too, Floyd Landis, he passed a ton of them before he popped, and it's just part of the game. I don't know. I don't know if there's ever I'll be able to like actually do anything to make it cleaner, but I'm just trying to float these ideas out there because I've learned so much from like Leo and Derek and even Steve. It's like I've learned so much about hormones and all this stuff, and I've been on the coin where I'm injecting everything into myself to now where I'm trying to figure it all out the other side. So it's like I have a pretty good idea and perspective of what all happens here.
What does Leo think of the drug testing?
I really don't know
about it.
I really don't know. I'm not sure. If I ever do a podcast with him again, I'll bring it up, see what he thinks of these ideas.
Yeah, he would be good. His thoughts would definitely be good on that. Well, Alex, you got questions for Pete? I'm sure you do, bro. Your mind's gonna go blank right now.
Well, does Alex want to compete against guys on all these drugs? It's like, it's not fair.
I was just thinking, like, there's like two sides of it, right? Where you've got guys like me that I want to compete, but you know, I'm still, at least in some part of my mind, I'm always going to be a young man that's got a big ego, and like whether I have learned to suppress that or not, if the next guy can come up and pull more than me because he's had help, and like genetically, let's say we're the same, we work the same, but he can do more, it's really tempting. And then also, like, because I'm a dad and like I have a full-time job, is like there's not very many sports I could actually compete in. Like,
True.
I don't have time to compete in like doing fighting and stuff. Like I couldn't. I would die. Like I'm a little skinny guy, so I'd get tendonitis like every single day for sure. But like I feel like there would be so much more incentive to compete in the sport if I actually knew it was fair. Which, you know, we're Christians, we can kind of compartmentalize and say, okay, I'm doing this because I enjoy it and I'm getting my satisfaction outside of this. But, you know, there's a lot of young guys, I imagine, that it's hard not to wrap your identity up with how much you pull. So then naturally the next step would be to like make yourself unhealthy, even though you know you don't want to, but just like take everything you can. And I'm sure you've seen that. But
Yeah.
I think it would be awesome to know for sure. I mean, and it seems like it's becoming more of like something that people want. Like you said, we all want to believe it's natural because we all want it to be natural, but we also are greedy and like we want to see bigger numbers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean. I don't know. I don't know if there'll ever be change with it, but yeah, I'll throw the idea out there.
Yeah.
I guess my question for you would be specifically for me, like talking about being like a dad and like I'm an electrician or an electrician apprentice. So like I'm up and down ladders and crawling all the time and constantly using your hands to like twist and jam stuff. So it's like when I started training with Scott, it was immediately like I realized like I either have to not work as hard or I have to not work out as much. And like, what are some things like as far as like mobility or recovery? What recommendations would you have for guys that are just getting into it that want to pull more and have like fun with it without actually hurting themselves? Because there's a lot of guys I know that want to work out, but like we work hard enough where it would be really difficult.
Yeah, I deal with a lot of guys like that now I work with. And what I've come to realize, especially, is like I've gotten older and more responsibilities and about to have a daughter. It's like most people want to train in a sustainable manner. They don't want to train where it's like freaking impossible to balance everything. So that's where I kind of came up with this idea of like for guys with a family and work and all this stuff and who don't recover as well. I'm like the 3-day split. It's freaking beautiful. It's like you have 4 days off, 4 days to not train to recover. And I'm like, so you get, you know, you push hard those 3 days and that's it. And it's like, it's such a beautiful, simplistic method because you don't feel like your life revolves around the gym. You feel like you can still have a family, get stuff done, but you're still able to progress. So for me, that's just been a complete game changer. And like, it's something I'm implementing more and more with guys because I found it keeps injuries at bay and it keeps people motivated because they're like, oh, I don't feel like crap all the time. So some of these younger guys, you can push it a lot harder. You can train all the time, push more volume. They don't mind being in the gym for 4 hours. But a lot of people are just like, I got off work. I don't want to be in the gym for more than an hour and a half, like stuff like that. And you have to cut the volume back. So I squat once a week. I deadlift once a week. You know, it's got to be sustainable.
Yeah. So that's always been a big thing for me. Like I know that's always been, and it's interesting because you don't hear like people on podcasts or in books like really address those things. Interestingly enough, like they don't address life very often. Like usually it's like this is the best training method, but it doesn't have any consideration to like what your life is. you know, or balancing. And that's something we were talking about with Boston. I asked you guys because I was like, for me, that weighs heavily on me. Like I just, you know, just competing in things I've done, it's like you almost feel like this is wrong. Like if you're too taken from your family, you know, it's like this isn't right to do this. And you know, that's why I asked you guys that, because I know you guys are very serious about competing and your sports, you and Boston both. And I was like, man, like, you know, because I almost feel like in a way, like, should I even compete? That's how I feel, you know. I'm like, should I even compete, or should I just do it for fun? You know what I mean? Like, so it's not like, because you know, you get in that mindset where you're like, I have to do my workout to stay on my progress, and you know what I mean? Like, I'd rather have an attitude where it's like it doesn't matter so much, but I still want to train. You know?
Do you want to compete? Are you saying in powerlifting?
Yeah, or even in anything, but yeah, in powerlifting would be an example. Yeah.
Because I can't address like MMA. I know that's more involved in bodybuilding. We talked about bodybuilding is 24/7. Powerlifting is not. Powerlifting, you can train 3 days a week, eat whatever you want, compete once a year, and enjoy it. And that's where I'm at in my life. I'm like, I can't be in the gym 4 or 5 hours a day training every day. My body won't handle it. I have too many responsibilities. It's not possible. So I have to shift. I had to come up with a way where I could still progress, maybe not quite as fast, but whatever. And it keeps my fire burning because I have those 4 off days. So I'm always like excited for the next workout. And then also it's like I can compete once a year. Like that's, you know, if I were you, Scott, even I'd be like, you can adopt the 3 day split and compete once a year and still have fun, and you don't feel like you're not going to feel selfish like you're taking away from your time with your family. It's like it's 3 days. You have 4 other days, and you don't have to make the workouts like crazy long either. So they don't have to be like SBD days or something crazy, you know. It's for me. I'm like, this is gonna be the best way to go moving forward. It'll be less taxing on my body, and then it'll allow me to still enjoy this. But it's not like I'm like a slave to training. So
Yeah.
powerlifting has that flexibility. You don't have to be like bodybuilding dialed in 24 hours a day, and you don't have to be. I would guess MMA is quite a bit more involved as well. So I think like Scott, you freaking strong as heck. I saw you squatted 800 2 years ago and stuff. It's like you could compete and you could do it sustainably. That option's always on the table, brother.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's amazing for me to see the progression of you, because I know like there's been like a lot of changes you've made over time. I'd be interested, like it'd be cool if you ever like wrote a book or something, because like when you coached me, that was definitely like the best progress I ever made, you know, in a really short period of time. But it was so hard, bro. Like deadlifting 3 times a week was like my whole life was sadness, bro. Like I'm not even joking. Like every day I was sad, bro. Like because I was like, I knew like I have to go home and deadlift after work, and I was like, I would just be like hella just depressed and stuff, and freaking like I didn't even have fun in my workouts, and my day off was just like stressful because I knew I had to deadlift the next day again, you know. But I mean, it worked though. I mean, but
Well,
you know, like I tell people like, hey man, that's the best result you ever get. But like, I could never do that again. And I knew that afterwards. I was like, I could never freaking deadlift 3 days a week. I don't
You
even
have
know
to
how
do
I
it that
did
way.
that. What?
I would. I don't even. You know, I know when this period was a few years ago, but I don't even remember what we did. But like hearing that, I'm like, I've evolved to such an extent with how I train people. Like I would never do that to you. Like I would. My goal as a coach, I'm like, I don't want the client to like hate their life. They're like run down all the time and like, oh, I feel like crap. Because when I was younger, like I've been doing the coaching 9 years, and when I was younger, I'm like mid-20s, so I have the attitude of like, we can run ourselves into the ground, and then I'm like sending that to guys in their late 30s, and they're just like dying. It's like, but you live and learn. You live and learn. It's I get better at this all the time as far as like how to handle people, because I'm like I couldn't do that to somebody. It'd be irresponsible and unsustainable.
Oh, dude, the only reason I did it is because I couldn't like email you and be like I couldn't do it. Like that's the only.
That's how I
reason.
feel sometimes.
Really? that was my only motivation because I was like, dude, I cannot live with that shame and be like, I can't do this.
Oh gosh.
So I would just do it, and I'd be like, well, yeah, I did it. Then there's like the next week of sadness again, bro.
I feel like crap all the time. I hate myself. I gotta do this. That's terrible.
But it worked though. I mean, I remember my deadlift went up like 100 pounds. And like,
but there's a lot of ways you can make something work that aren't that ridiculous. So
yeah.
it's not the best route. Because like I so much better understand balance now than I did. You can't tell a guy who's on trend what balance is.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't have a wife, I didn't have a kid, I didn't have any of these things. There was no freaking balance. I didn't need balance. So it's like very hard to relate to the family man, the common family man. Whereas now I'm like, oh, I totally get it.
Yeah, I remember actually talking to you a little bit about it. Like at that time, I was like, hey man, like, what do you do for people who like can't train like a Spartan warrior? And you just kind of were like you were like, you didn't understand the question. Like you're just like, what? Like, like that wasn't even existed. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, I'm just not gonna bring that up again. You know, like.
That's why most of the guys I worked with back then were like 20-year-olds because they were like,
Oh.
now it's like a lot of like 38, 40 because it's like different crowd. I think the younger guys probably go to like the other coaches who want to kill them. Like this one guy came to me recently. He's like, I was doing this other guy's programming and like, did we freeze up for a sec? Hold up. 1 sec. Are we back? Sort of.
Yeah.
Wait, it's
a little glitchy, but
yeah, I'm just trying to see. Okay, we good?
Yeah.
Well, he was running this other guy's programming who's like a really strong guy, but he's young. He's like, the workout I he did my first training session. He's like, that's about how it was before, but we would have done 30 more sets. And he was dead serious. I'm like, holy crap, dude. I'm like, that's insane.
Yeah.
He's like, this was so easy. I don't understand. He's like, my last guy would have been that plus 30 more sets. I'm like, geez, that's insane. I'm like, wow. But these guys, like, you don't get it.
Yeah, no, when you're young, you don't care too. I remember when I was really young, I would do like as many sets of squats as I could. You know, like I would be like, I'm gonna see if I could do 100 sets of squats, and I would do it. And then I would have like the flu for like a week or whatever. And I thought it was awesome for some reason, you know. Me and my buddy would punch each other in the leg and stuff. Yeah. You know? But yeah. Huh?
Just masochism.
Masochism, yeah. And but yeah, it's cool, man. It's cool to see you changing and learning more and more and more. Because we talked about different changes you made. I know, like it seems like a little thing, but like you went from the over under grip to the double overhand for the biceps and stuff, and like you know what I mean? Like that's just part of the journey, you know, because it's logical and stuff like that. And I was telling him about that video I sent you the other day where you squatted the 771. I was telling him, I was like, yeah, he didn't even train squats, dude. And I thought that was insane, bro. Because I asked you, I was like, why did you walk it out like that? And you like fell like twice. You know, I mean, it just looked so bad. I was like, it looked like, what's going on? But you hit a 771 squat and you're like, oh yeah, I didn't do any squats in training. I just deadlifted. I was like, how is that even possible, dude? But you did that.
Well, I just relied on my back strength because my back was so strong that it just did all the work on squat. So like the walkout was way harder than the squat because the walkout, my legs were buckling because my legs weren't strong enough. So I was freaking exhausted because I hated squats because of my hip structure. They've always been hard on me. Like they feel awful compared to deadlift because I have lateral hip attachments, hip sockets. So it's just an FAI and all these freaking issues where my hip bones run into each other and run into the femur and stuff. And so I was like, all right, I'm just not going to squat and I'm just going to get really strong in deadlift and I should be good. So like your deadlift in 900, you're like, all right, that should be good for a pretty good squat. but like walking it out, like my leg strength wasn't there with the quads, so they were like buckling, like it was freaking bad. Like I had to re-rack it twice, and then I had like 10 seconds left on the clock, and I'm like, crap, I got to do this, and I had zero. I was exhausted, and I just like went for it. It was crazy.
Was that your best total ever?
Yeah, yep,
That's crazy.
yeah. That was a rough time, but
I actually did. So we talked about. I really struggle with like elbows on low bar, which seems like it's a super common thing.
Good
And
question.
You, I think he said that you train high bar a lot, or you used to, or I'm not sure how that works. But I've noticed when I was doing a lot of volume stuff with Scott, doing high bar basically, and then I go to a low bar and we start bumping the weight up, is like I just fall over. Like I have a really hard time getting my balance when I switch to that low bar. Like, is there anything like mentally that you've found that's helpful with making that transition?
not really. I mean, because it would always feel kind of awkward when I would just like try to low bar on meet day after having only done high bar. But I could usually, with the adrenaline, just like make myself do it and find that groove. But now all I do is low bar, but it's only once a week. So my arms are in pretty good shape from just once a week doing low bar. But it does feel really unnatural at first, when you switch to it. So there's not it just was muscle memory basically how I could like somehow pull it together on meet day. Plus the adrenaline is like huge. You like people squat like 30 more pounds on meet day because of adrenaline than they do in training all the time. They get a huge kick.
So I'm going to end it on this bit of life advice for everybody listening to this, because I learned this lesson the hard way. But I didn't do the dishes, and my wife smacked me around pretty rough. I mean, pretty bad, And so, like, if anybody's wondering, like, if you get smacked around by your wife for not doing the dishes, you guys know what you should do? You should do? You guys
What's
know what
that?
to do? The dishes, if you know what's best for you.
Yeah. And the laundry.
Life, happy life,
Yeah.
right?
I got those dishes done, man. They're up in the cupboard. So
I do the dishes every day. I'm not gonna lie. Hand wash.
Hey, it saves you from those black eyes, man.
No, that's what happened to you. He got you good, dude.
I learned the hard way. All right, brother, man. Thank you, man. Thanks for doing this, dude. It's good to catch up with you, man. It's been a little while, and appreciate it. And yeah, he's gonna go hit some PRs right now, and we'll get him ready. Maybe I'll do this one with him, and maybe the next one he'll work with you or something. If he's ready. Cool.
Yeah, you'll be good. You'll do well in May.
Thank you. It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Big deal getting to talk to you, honestly. Like a huge fan.
I feel complete normal person. That's not, but I appreciate it. It's just it's weird to almost hear anymore because I just feel normal. I'm like, I'm normal.
Yeah. You're not like going insane. Like,
No, I appreciate it.
The warrior just snarling.
No, I'm not a psychopath anymore.
Yeah. So Greg Doucette, man, respond to this, bro. Do a response video, please. Please, bro. All right. All right, brother. Have a good night, man.
I'll see you, buddy.
Later, bro.